receptors. Do you hear that word? In the hypothalamus in the brain. The hypothalamus then either creates a feeling of thirst that will bring more water into my body, but it will also move to the pituitary gland. And the pituitary gland has a back side and a front side. And on the posterior, the back side of the pituitary gland, it will release ADH. The ADH will do the following. It will open little pores, they call it aquaporins, in the collecting duct. So they will actually open little gates. And now the water will be reabsorbed into the vasa recta. Do you understand that? So when will that happen? When it is detected by the hypothalamus and by some osmoreceptors in my body. When it is detected that the solutes are too high, the pressure is too low, because water brings a pressure in the blood vessels and in the cells. And that pressure is being measured in my brain. Did you know that? I think it is so perfectly created. Now, this pressure that can be measured. And then the water is reabsorbed, and now you will have very concentrated urine. What is another word that I can use to say my urine is concentrated? Isotonic, hypertonic, or hypotonic? Hypertonic urine can be released because the water is reabsorbed. So it is more concentrated urine. Do you understand that? So the other way around, if I really drank a lot of water, like on a day when I'm not sweating in the winter, now, the water level rises above a specific range. Remember, it's always a range. You remember blood glucose between 80 and 100 milliliter sugar glucose per blood. Per 100 milliliter blood. It's a range. It's not one specific measurement. But as it is too high, now the hypothalamus detects low solute concentration, so high pressure in the blood due to the presence of water, and the pituitary gland releases less or no ADH. So those the collecting duct become impermeable to water. It's not releasing any more water than what was released at the tube of the loop of Henle. You understand? It becomes impermeable to water, and the urine now becomes hypotonic or less concentrated. Lots of water is rather released. Okay. Now, this is how we see the regulation of the water levels by a hormone. So, here we have the little story again. If the water content of the blood is normal, it will stay like that. But unfortunately, we drink more water or less water. So, if there is not enough water, what may cause not enough water? If you ate a lot of biltong, or you ate a lot of chips, a lot of salts, or you sweat a lot, or you just did not drink enough water. You drank a lot of caffeine-rich drinks. You drank coffee or Reboost or whatever, this high caffeine drinks that we are drinking. And the water content is low. In the hypothalamus, it will be detected by osmoreceptors. Pituitary gland, anterior pituitary gland, release the ADH, high volumes of water, reabsorb small volumes of concentrated urine, and it is normal again. So what I want you now to realize is the following. We call this negative feedback. And I just want you to, I'm only going to touch it today. We call that levels are too high. In order to get back to homeostasis, I need to lower the level. So it's actually, I'm doing the opposite of what is needed for the body. Now, the levels are too high, so I must lower it. We call that negative feedback. And I want you to read with me. When homeostasis is disrupted, we need a corrective mechanism. So, if blood water levels are low, we need a correction. If it is low, what must I do? The kidneys must reabsorb more. Nee. So the corrective mechanism will be for the kidneys to absorb more. But how? How will the kidneys make it possible to absorb more? The collecting ducts must open their pores. Nee. How will the collecting duct open their pores? By the hormone. Nee. But how will the hormone knows to be secreted? By the sensor. The sensor in the brain. Then it triggers the ADH. The ADH opens the kidney. Can you see? That is the corrective mechanism. How will your body now knows when to stop with this corrective mechanism? When it is, the sensor will send it all the time, it will measure. You see? And that is what we call negative feedback. There is a corrective measurement to regulate the disruptive levels. And it will move back to the appropriate level. That is done by a sensor, a hormone, a sensor, a hormone, until it reaches the homeostatic levels. Because you must not see the word negative. What it means is, listen to the language, if my blood water levels are low, it needs to do the opposite. I need to higher them. That is why they call it negative feedback. We do have a positive feedback system also in our body. And that one moves away and away and away from homeostasis. I do not want to go there because it is difficult to understand that. But this is negative because it's doing the opposite of what it is now. It is now too high. Nee. So, to change it, I must lower it to get it to zero. We can say that. Nee. If I'm going in a positive direction on a number line, what must I do? I must go in the opposite direction in order to get to zero again. If zero is our level of homeostasis. You agree? You understand? And that is why they call it negative feedback. Okay. That is something I just want to leave for you to understand. And I'm going to skip that one. That is one of my favorite pictures. Because that picture is showing what is actually happening in the kidneys. In the nephron. Can you see? There we start with the glomerulus, with the pressure ultrafiltration. We see that some guys is entering more waste and some are taking out the good stuff, the useful substances. You can see, here we see the descending limb, osmosis is taking place. There we have the salt pump, pumping out to make this an environment where osmosis can take place. There we again have getting the good stuff, especially for pH regulation. Add some more waste, and there we have the collecting duct. If the levels in the blood of water is low, please open it with which hormone? Antidiuretic hormone. Do you understand that one? Okay. Questions? No more questions. Good. So now we can continue to what happens if my kidney has a problem. We did start with it. We said we have two options. We had some time left, and then we started to look at the video instead of just do something new. You remember? So we have two options when you have kidney problems. Dialysis or kidney transplant. Or a kidney transplant. We looked at the dialysis, and what was very important with the dialysis was this dialyzer, which actually act like the glomerulus, you agree? Large surface area, tubes, and we need to have the dialysate must have the same osmotic potential as the blood. Same. So that it can remove urea, but not amino acids, vitamins, and glucose. Okay, so, and then we also talked about the peritoneal dialysis, where they use the lining inside your stomach, pump it full dialysate, and the exchange is happening. The advantages of kidney dialysis is you do not need a donor, you do not have to wait, and there's nothing to reject. So you will not use immunosuppressants. Your immune system stay intact and can help you fight against diseases. The problem is, it is very time consuming. The weaker your kidneys get, the more time you have to spend. Your diet and fluid intake is controlled. And the day when you are not eating correct, you have more waste and more problems. And this waste then eventually can accumulate, and it can poison your whole system. You can look in your textbook, you have, that is the shunt that I wanted to show you, and this one
Hello,
is
I'm Dr. Goldfarb, and I'm the head of renal transplantation at the
kidney transplant.
Kidney Institute. The shortage of organs is the most compelling problem in transplantation today. One of the most important ways to close this gap is by performing living donor kidney transplantation. It now has a well-defined safety profile. In the past 10 years, significant increases in living donation have occurred because of new methods that decrease morbidity for
living
donors.
means
The new procedure is called
donate my
laparoscopic
kidney
living
while
donor
I'm alive.
nephrectomy. The laparoscopic donor nephrectomy is now an established minimally invasive procedure for removal of a living donor kidney. Cleveland Clinic surgeons have pioneered the development of this procedure. There are 3 small incisions the size of a quarter on the upper abdomen for placement of slender laparoscopic instruments. The kidney removal site is in the bikini line. Following placement of the instruments, the bowel is mobilized and the kidney is exposed. The ureter is first identified. The gonadal vein helps to identify the boundaries of the dissection. Tributary vessels, such as the adrenal and the gonadal vein, are controlled.
That is to prevent blood spill, né? Bleeding out.
Next, the adrenal gland is separated from the kidney.
Adrenal gland for your adrenaline.
Then the major renal vessels, the renal vein, and then the renal artery are dissected free from surrounding tissues.
What is that? Ureter.
Attention now returns to the ureter, which is now divided at an appropriate length,
Ureter.
along with some surrounding tissue in order to preserve the ureteral blood supply. Once this is completed, the kidney extraction incision is made in the bikini line. Its length is the width of a surgeon's hand, or about 4 inches. The surgeon now turns attention back to the major kidney vessels. The artery is the first to be ligated. It is controlled with either clips as shown or a stapling device. The vein is controlled with a stapling device. Finally, the surgeon reaches in to retrieve the kidney through the bikini line incision. The kidney is immediately placed into an ice basin to help preserve the kidney for transplantation. All wounds are then closed and the donor is recovered. The hospital stay is usually 2 to 3 days, and most donors return to normal activity by 3 to 4 weeks.
3 to 4 weeks. Now, okay, now what they will do then is they will add that kidney to a blood vessel. You see, there is a vein and a aorta, and they will link it there. But they leave the kidney that is not working inside the body. I am not sure if it has to do with pressure, blood pressure, or to prevent more reaction of your body by taking out something. You know, because when you remove something out of your body goes into shock. There is shock. So they add that kidney because that one is, except if there is cancer to be found in the kidney, then they will remove it. But if it is just not doing its work properly, perhaps it has a tiny function, then it can still help. So they leave it there, and your body continue then with 3 parts. A kidney transplant helps you to function normally. You can eat whatever you like. You can keep on living your healthy lifestyle. Of course, if you had some ways of living that contribute to losing your kidney, you definitely have to stop with that. But you can have a normal function. You are not dependent on a machine. You are free to live a normal, healthy life. And we all need to live a normal, healthy life. Do you agree? Okay. The problem is, of course, rejection. And we studied that. We need tissue type and blood type. Therefore, they normally look for a close relative to determine whether the donor and the one that the recipient is a match. Immunosuppressant drugs need to be used for a while, and that makes you very vulnerable. Your immunity is under great pressure, and you can become ill. So for a while, you will have to live in quarantine or very carefully. Right. And the last thing is just about the kidney stones that can develop there due to lots of crystallization that takes place. And interesting, if you take in not enough fluid, okay, and take care of energy drinks. Energy drinks dehydrates your body, or everything with caffeine in it especially. Okay. High protein, high sodium, refined sugars, fructose, and interesting, grapefruit juice, they say, also have an influence on forming of kidney stones. There is some genes that is also involved. Some families tend to have more kidney stones in their families. Okay, and that brings us to the end of the excretory.
Namibia is known for its beautiful wide open landscapes. However, these deserted spaces also pose numerous educational challenges in our country's rural areas. Because of this, many learners are denied access to proper teaching and learning. At EduVision, we believe that education is the starting point to a journey of endless possibilities.
And very soon, we are going to see e-learning. Soon and very soon, we are going.
The plan for EduVision was to identify areas in Namibia that did not have the proper learning resources, a working school or an education center.
Hallelujah, hallelujah, we are going to see e-learning. No more dieting, no more dieting.
My name is Philip Smith. I'm the principal of Educate Academy in Otjiwarongo. The project EduVision, the e-learning program, started in 2017. With a project like this, obviously telecommunication, internet connection is a major thing that needs to be sorted out, a logistical challenge. And the fact that we chose Chunkwe Secondary School as the first school didn't make it easier for ourselves. It's very far from Otjiwarongo, it's far from Buntuk. So the internet connection was a big challenge first of all. So with the help of the telecommunications expert Paratus, they made this dream come true with internet connections via Buntuk, Otjiwarongo to Chunkwe and then back, the whole process. Like I said, it's interactive whiteboard, so the internet speed, capacity of the connectivity and so forth plays a major role. And so Paratus made this dream come true, and they were on board from the first moment. So very grateful for Paratus.
The project offers teaching assistance of a high standard in science to rural secondary schools within the learner's own community by means of e-learning. This entails the following: live transmissions of lessons from an equipped teacher in a different location to the students in rural areas, students using their own cell phone, tablet or computer to recall each lesson, and interactive lessons as well as the use of a smartboard as a teaching aid.
So if we look ahead at the next 3 years, we get information from the Ministry of Education. The future is very bright. So I think there's a lot of schools who can benefit from this program. Like I mentioned before, finances obviously plays a major role in a project like this. So we're very thankful for all the sponsors that are on board and still on board after almost 3 years of the project. So as long as people from the private sector can get involved, I think we can reach many schools in Namibia, because this project made a good start now. We're already seeing some positive results, and we can just call on all the private sector corporate sponsors to come on board and join in this very, very positive project.
It is EduVision's goal to prepare and guide learners in order to make the modern world they are living in accessible to all.
My name is Magdalena Neoma. I'm 18 years old and I'm doing my first year at UNAM Command campus, and I completed my grade 12 at Tsumpe Senior Secondary School. I'm doing education, so I'm gonna teach at Tsumpe Secondary School, because there I really need to go there and motivate the learners. EduVision helped me a lot. It assisted us in teaching for mathematics, physical science, and biology. And it also, we get to exchange learning from other schools like Educate, whereby they teach us, and that's the most thing that we benefited from. Studying without EduVision was so challenging, and when EduVision was introduced at our school, things become more easier. The time where EduVision was not introduced, we were so slow in learning, and when EduVision introduced at our school, my learning speed increases. Things were kind of boring, and when EduVision came, my mind changed the way I think. I'm really grateful for what EduVision gave us. Our class of 2019 was the first group to make it, to perform very well at Tsumpe Senior Secondary School. So it should keep up the spirit. We need that. It should continue to support us.
EduVision aspires to ensure that equal opportunity is offered to every learner in rural areas to tap into his or her own potential while working in an environment which views disadvantages not as obstacles but as unique attributes that can be regarded as powerful assets when given the proper opportunity. At EduVision, we believe that dreams are the foundation of knowledge, and hope always triumphs over experience.
No more problems. Everything is proper.
ShopRite has always been here for you, and our promise to bring you low prices on what you need most will never change. Get 2 liters Right Brand sunflower oil, only $42.99, and 3 kilos Polana macaroni, just $59.99. Only